Hey everyone, what's going on? So I'm Mike Del Sancio from DC Farms, and I'm just gonna wait for a few people to log on. Sorry, the light's shining in my eyes. It's a nice day today. I'm sweating. In case you're wondering what the best temperature is for greenhouse growers, it's technically anywhere between like 25 during the day and about 16 to 18 at night. So it's good for the plants to have a break at night to recover, just like us. So we were having those nicer days up until, well, this past week. Now it's kind of just hot during the day and hot at night. So it becomes a little more challenging to direct your plant, but we have other ways around that. Okay, well, I guess we'll enter. So I'm Mike from DC Farms, and this is my family's, I'm a third generation family farmer. My parents have been farming this land since the 70s. We started off with apple orchards, apple and peach orchards right here. And in 1995, we went to 3 acres of beefsteak tomatoes. We advanced into horticulture and greenhouses because acreage farming was getting a little challenging. So we had to shift and with the times, and that's what we've continued to do. In 2012, we went from another 3 acres to 6 acres, and we also grew Roma tomatoes and mini cucumbers. And as you will see now, just this past year, I changed from cucumbers to eggplant. So I enjoy, one of the things I enjoy most about this job is learning new crops. And I'm enjoying eggplant so far. And we'll go and see that now. So here's my entrance. I'm just gonna flip this around, actually. So when you come in, there's farm biosecurity for COVID. We are following all of Ministry of Labor and Health Canada standards. Anybody who comes in, first of all, we only allow emergency situations, whether it be an electrician or something where it's only extremely necessary. That's the only way we're letting anybody in. But I do check their health, go through a questionnaire. They put on a robe, mask, gloves, and that's all in here, as you can see. And also, there's my beautiful parents. How sweet is that? Anyway, they're the reason I'm here. I owe everything to them, and that's what small family 300 horse boilers, and that's good for about 6 to 8 acres. So now I'm taking you through my greenhouse of eggplant. As you can see, this is 3 acres. We used to grow mini cukes in this area, but I've just changed to eggplant. By the way, if any of you do get into greenhouses and the horticulture field, getting one of these carts or a golf cart or something, I don't recommend it, because once you have one, you're walking and your step count throughout the day drastically decreases and your pant size increases. Madeline, I see you asked, has eggplant production become more popular in Ontario? Actually, it's kind of stayed fairly consistent for the past few years. It's not the biggest market. The biggest market is definitely the main commodities are cucumbers, tomatoes, and peppers. And now we're getting into a lot of strawberries and lettuce, and eggplant is it's on the smaller end of those markets. Well, here we are. Sorry, everybody. My bad. So, I'm doing this all on my own. I was going to use a selfie stick, but I think that kind of looks a little foolish, to be honest. So, here's my eggplants. What essentially we're trying to do in the greenhouse is to create the perfect environment for photosynthesis to take place. And in simple terms, photosynthesis takes the energy from the light and converts the water and CO2 into oxygen and sugars for the plant. And those sugars ultimately turn into the fruit you're looking at here. So in order to do that, we try to play God to some degree and put the perfect elements into the plant and into the environment and fine-tune every little detail to get it to the optimal growth. Sorry, I'm just looking to see if anyone has questions there. So yeah, I'll show you. Can you see that? There we go. So as you'll see down here, this is kind of like a glorified eaves trough that you have around your house. So when it rains, you know, it runs off your roof into the eaves trough, and then it drains out the side. So all these plants, when we water, eventually they start draining, and they drain into this, and it goes to the end, and it's all recaptured. So we keep everything on site, and we're very environmentally friendly. Nothing from this facility ends up into the lake water or anything. We have to abide by Ministry of Environment's regulations, and we are audited quite often. And but it's good because it keeps our industry moving forward and advancing. We always have to expect better from one another in this industry and in life, to be honest. Actually, I'll just show you here. So when we feed the plants, how many varieties of eggplant do you grow? Diane, I have 2 varieties right now. One is J-Lo and one is Taurus. And I'm doing a trial to see, this is my first year growing it. So in order to figure out which one works best for me, I'm doing a trial and collecting data. And that will determine how I proceed moving forward. So when we do water the plants, you see we have them on Grodan slabs there. So we can dictate how we grow through the height of this slab. Depending on different watering measures, you can water more or less. And you can also adjust this to suit your needs. You can go less here, wider. It's very custom fit to whatever you want and whatever kind of style works for you. So when we get our plants, we get them probably about a foot, 2 feet tall. And so we put them out. On each individual slab, we have two plants. And as you'll see, with one block, we have two plants there. So it's 4 plants per bag. And these plants specifically are grafted. And that means we kind of cut the head off of one plant and put it onto another. The benefit of that is it gives us a stronger root zone. So kind of like if you wanted faster feet to run, kind of cut your feet off and put on Usain Bolt's feet and you'll run faster. So that's kind of what we do here. And the benefit of that is in the long run, this plant will last longer. So we can get more production and longer production out of one initial planting. If I chose not to go that route, I would probably have to plant twice a year, which is an option as well. I'm still debating back and forth of which one's best for me. But as I collect data throughout the year, that answer will become more clear. So when we water, we have the irrigation line. It's running through the plant. That's it right there. So the water comes up and it feeds through through here, these little emitters, and these are set at a certain pressure to open. So the pumps are set at a certain pressure to force these open, and then it goes through this spaghetti. And I'm not just saying that because it's Italian. I actually don't know the term, but that's what I call it. And this goes into the plant, and it's staked down. You can see that. So there's a little hole, this hose, and it goes through there, hits this little break here, and then that's how we water our plants. Yes, there is a lot of science and data collection and analysis in our day-to-day. It's becoming more and more. I'll show you something, kind of the newest thing that I'm working on. It's pretty cool, but I'll show you at the end of this when I'm back in my office. So, do you use these lines for nutrients? Yes, these lines run all our water and our nutrients. Our nutrients are mixed. I recycle my water, first of all. I should get back to that. All the water that flows through is recycled and goes back to the front, and that is mixed, and it's all sterilized to kill all the viruses and bacteria with the pasteurizer, and then we mix it with fresh water, essentially 50-50 mix of recycled and fresh nutrients, and then we feed it back into the plant. And that's how we're able to have a closed loop system and keep everything in-house. And we save water, save money on fertilizer. Everybody wins in that case. How many plants do I grow in my greenhouse? I have 3 acres here, 3 acres right on the other side of this wall. And it's roughly about 30,000 plants. And tomatoes, it's 40,000. It all depends on what you're growing and what kind of density you want. It's the belief of having more plants equals more production, equals more money, equals a better business decision it doesn't work that way. Some plants need more space, some plants need less space. And what works in some greenhouses might not work in another. For instance, I have low plastic here. I have 14 feet, 14 feet to the gutter and plastic. So that lets in less light than a more high-tech greenhouse, so to speak, which is like 24 feet and has glass. So they can get away with having more plants because simply they're allowed more light to penetrate their canopy. Yeah. So also with crops, when I was growing cucumbers, that's a very quick crop. You put it in and it's go, 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 because it doesn't last. The plant's just not built to last. It's a very weak stem. It's a lot of water. So when you grow cucumbers, you have to grow, like some guys are doing 4, 5, even 6 crops a year. So it's just like continuous. And that has its advantages though. Now with eggplant, I'm doing 1 crop a year. Oh, excuse me. And I plant in February, first week of February. And I will take it to pretty much the start of December. And I find the time where my heating bill isn't as much as my profits. And once those kind of meet, that's when I decide to stop my crop. That's usually at the beginning of December. And at that point also the plant has it's done. Like eventually these plants hit a point where they only have so much to give, and it's up to me to dictate when that is and plan the direction of my growing around that. There's lots of variables at play in this industry. So I guess I will take you into my tomato. Actually, wait. So in order for pest control, this is an exciting part. For pest control, we use bugs to eat bad bugs. I'm sure some of you know this, but for those of you who don't, so we put these little sachets out, and they're full of little tiny bugs that you can't really see unless you're under a microscope or you have a little lens. And we put them in, as you can see, there's one here, one here. We pretty much have one on every other plant, and I'm actually putting some in this afternoon, and that controls my pest. So this one, for instance, is Swirsky. This controls thrip for the most part. And I have other Californicus here that controls spider mite. So you play with which bugs work for you, and also how many of these you put out. So if you anticipate a problem, and right now is probably the worst time. So we're kind of good for pests up until the summertime and the hot weather comes. And that's simply because it's hot and we have to, you can see, I have the vents open. So you can imagine how many, I mean, it doesn't happen often, but bugs can just fly in at their leisure, you know, once you open a vent, kind of like your house flies come in when you leave the door open. So that's when we have pest issues. And I know there's always a concern that pesticides and the public wants clean fruit and vegetables. I completely agree, and we do not spray nearly as much as the public might think. There's no benefit in it for us. If we can control it with bios, it's economically better for us, and every which way. So we really only try to spray when there is a very instant outbreak, kind of like well, COVID, for instance. You saw how we had to like react quickly and take measures. Like that's kind of what happens to us. Like overnight, you could just get hit. It doesn't happen often though, and like I was saying, we try to control as much with bios as possible. And anytime we do spray, we have to follow very strict protocols. We have to take a course every 3 years for a grower pesticide safety course to know limits and residues and when we can pick, how we can spray. And we definitely follow all the protocol to make it safe for us and the end consumer. Okay, I'm going to open one of these now actually and show you. So inside this is just, you can see, where's the camera? It's just like little sawdust with bugs in there, and they hatch periodically. So one of these lasts about 3 weeks. There's different stages of larvae, and they come out over the course of 3 weeks to take care of pests. And I know you can't see them on there, but I do have, sorry here about all the movement. I do have an example here of what it looks like. So I don't know if you can see those orange dots on there. Those are the biologicals that we put in. So anyway, that's the eggplant. I'm having a hard time knowing which way to put my phone. There we go. And here's our Roma tomatoes. So I have 3 acres of Roma tomatoes, and as you can see, I don't know if you can notice, but this is a much taller greenhouse. It's 21 feet. So the more space you have above the canopy, the more you can control humidity, temperature, all the key factors that go into it. So right now the average build is probably between 21 and 24 feet. Whereas that back range, the older grows that were in like the 90s and early 2000s, those were built at about 14 to 16 feet. For insulation on our walls, I was saying previously, we have plastic. So this is inflated plastic. So it insulates between the two layers. That's what keeps the cold air out. And there's new technology out now, and we just installed this last year, and it's 3 layers of plastic. So it's that much more insulation during the winter, and that's very beneficial to keep our heating costs down. So here we are in the tomatoes, in the Roma tomatoes. You can see, walk backwards here. These rows are about 312 feet, and we pick our tomatoes. These we pick this week, it'll be twice a week. Next week, it'll be 3 times a week. So we pick every day except for Wednesday and Sunday. That's what seems to work out best for us. Eggplants we pick every day, and cucumbers we also pick every day. These, likewise, we planted these in the start of September. There we go. Oh, sorry. We started these the start of February, and we take them to the end of November, beginning of December. Do you have any issues? Mercedes asked, do you have any issues with harsh winter conditions affecting or destroying your greenhouse? Yeah, the harsh winters can cause a problem. For the most part, these structures are built fairly sound and strong enough to withstand most environmental conditions. However, there are times where issues do arise. Sometimes a vent will stay open slightly open on a windy day, and you can just imagine the wind coming up and then peeling the vent back. I've never had it, but I've seen it, and it doesn't look like fun. But that being said, we do have all our alarm system and all the settings on our computer we can set in advance for the environment and our settings to react before those conditions come. However, once in a while you do get a boiler shutdown in the middle of winter, and that is probably the most challenging aspect of our job, because it's, whatever, minus 15 outside, and all of a sudden your boiler might shut down. It sucks, and you have to, it's like 2 a.m, and you have to immediately troubleshoot and come up with an answer or do something, because you can just imagine the crop loss if this range dropped to, freezing. It would kill these plants like that, but it's never happened to me. So in our tomatoes, we have every week I take measurements, as you can see here. I take measurements of the growth. This is the growth from week to week. I flag it, and I take measurements of the diameter of the stem, the length of the leaf, and how many fruit is on per plant. And when you put all that data together, again, it's just more information to help you make better growing decisions. Why are the stakes on an angle? They're not technically on an angle. You don't want them on an angle. You want them straight up and down, just like that. Just like that. Sorry, not sure if you can see. Yeah, you don't want it like this, because obviously if the water comes down, it's going to hit this, it's going to drop on the bag, and not even water. So you want it directly into the slab about halfway. Yeah, so this plant, it starts off about 2 feet, and it grows about a foot a week. And I set about one set a week. So I'll pick a set, and then I'll set another set on the top. So it's just consistent. And a week's worth of growth, give or take. I mean, it's not always like that. In the summer, it obviously grows more. In the winter, not so much. But on an average, that's what it is. And so I get about 36, 37 sets a year. So that times a foot each. So if you do quick math, at the end of the year, my plant is like 36, 37 feet. So this plant right here, would end way down there. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool that watching these things grow and go through different life cycles throughout the whole year. Like that's one of my favorite parts of growing. To support our plants, you see we put these black, they're called accordions on there. So that prevents them from kinking, making a sharp kink in there, and that allows you to get full growth out of your plant. And, oh, sorry, my bad, I meant branches. They all look like they are on an angle easier. Oh, I see what you're asking. Oh, Luciano. So why it's going like this? Yeah, that's probably something I should have mentioned. So we lower these plants. So this plant, like this plant right here, is probably about, right now it's like 16 feet long. So it goes that way. So this row onto my left is tilted that way, and this row is tilted forward. And that's when they grow, we lower the, I don't know if you can see those hooks up there. They're on string, and we lower them. Once a week we lower them, and allow us to grow more in the canopy space above. With our tomatoes, we have a grafted and a pinched plant. So we have two plants. We have two plants here with one rootstock. So you can see it's kind of two for the price of one within one block. That looks like it's not good for the plant, but it eventually dries up, and it's not too much of an issue moving forward. Also, another key thing is the size of the fruit. So these tomatoes right here, you'll see I want very consistent size for the pack, because if you don't have consistency and it's all over the place, it doesn't look good to the end consumer, and it's not desirable to our marketer. I can show you what the end product looks like. So right now I have it's about 22 degrees in here right now, and I hit my peak, I keep it at about 24, and it'll hit 24 in about an hour at like lunch. And then I go down to, at nighttime, I drop it down to capture the cold. Because when you get that deep pre-night, it forces the sugars up to the head. So at night, like right when the sun's setting, I try to drop my temperature to like 16, and that forces sugars into the head, and that can give you, it forces forces fruit growth. I combined two words into one. Okay, I'm gonna take you up to the front. Hope I don't have Austin Powers moment here. Kenny is asking, explain the importance of joules. Okay, so joules is measuring the amount of energy from the sun. So how much you're getting from the sun, and that dictates how hot you want to keep your crop and what direction you want to steer your crop. So on hot days like this, I can get away with a much higher temperature. If it was a cloudy, kind of rainy day, like we had like a couple weeks ago, I would keep it much lower. I would keep it probably like 20. And you don't want to push a plant when you don't have optimal weather. So on cloudy, rainy days, you kind of just give the plant a bare minimum so you don't burn it out. A plant, much like a human, it only has so much. So you want to push it at its proper time, or else it's just not going to cooperate. So we're just driving up to the front. Anytime I drive through, or I'm pretty much all hours of the time I'm in here, my ears and eyes always have to be open, because you have to listen to pumps, boilers, CO2, vents, everything. You have to be like a music producer and just understand where sounds are coming from and why they're there. That's just part of the nature of the job, and that's something that you can't really learn that in school. It's just something that comes with experience, and that's why a grower's position is so valuable, and it's so important, because they just know everything that's going on, or should know everything. I'm not claiming to know everything, despite what my wife might think. So this is my newest toy, and I'm super excited about it. So it's a pasteurizer unit. So this is what I was talking about when I said we recycle our water. When the water comes back, when it drains into that yeast trough and it comes back, it's held in these large storage tanks behind me. And then it passes through those storage tanks, through this unit. And this unit heats up the water to 90 degrees and kills anything harmful for the plant within that. And then it's mixed into another one of those black tanks. Those are 10,000 gallon tanks. And it's mixed with the fresh water and my new nutrients, and fired right back into my crop to water. So it keeps my fertilizer costs down, my water costs down, and any potential harmful residues to the environment, all in-house. Okay, I am going to show you my fertilizer and my injector unit. So here we are. This is my fertilizer tanks. So as you can see, we got calcium, Epsom salt, magnesium sulfate, potassium nitrate, and so I mix these periodically, as you can see. So I mix those about, I don't know, on average once a week. And so that is mixed with the recycling water that I was just mentioning. And I use this injector system here. Oh, just kicked on. Wow, that was like perfect timing. So you can see how these injector heads, you'll see it go. See how it just pumped? So that's pumping all my fertilizer and mixing it with my recycled into my crop. And that ties into the joules that I was discussing earlier, because based on how many joules, that's based on how much you water. Sorry, I'm just going to show you one thing here that I forgot about. Just our end product. So this is our end product. This is it's 2 pounds, and it ends up going to our stuff specifically goes to Costco, and the packaging is very important to keep the shelf life. And you can see how size and consistency is so important. Right now I'm shooting for like anywhere between 95 and 105 grams per fruit, and that keeps a very consistent, nice looking pack. And here's my eggplant. It's about 5 in a bag, and there's a lot of science behind that bag. They have to have environmental controls kind of built into the plastic. I don't know how it all works, but you have to keep the humidity out of the bag, and they do that with certain kinds of plastic, I've been told. I thought that was pretty cool. I'm gonna take you now to see my my computer and how I operate this place. So here's my office. Oh, here's what that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it in a nutshell. So here we're in my office. Here's my, so when I scout for bugs, I'll grab a leaf and I will look at it up close to see what kind of bugs, how many bugs we have, the beneficials that are there, are the beneficials working. I just started using this like a few years ago, and my scouting game has gone up tenfold. So if any of you are interested in getting into scouting, I highly recommend you get yourself a microscope. What is a difficult process? Was it a difficult process to get your products in Costco? Actually, it's not. We ship our stuff to a marketer, and they build the relationships with Costco and the grocery stores, and it's up to them where they send it. I don't have. I do have some say in it, but ultimately it's up to the marketer on where they want to ship our produce. And which is one of the reasons why the Leamington, Kingsville area is so high in greenhouse acreage, because we're close to the Detroit border and the American border, and that's the busiest border crossing in all of Canada states area. So it makes sense that we would have a large segment of the horticulture greenhouse industry within close proximity. Okay, so here's my oh, whoa, I never realized I've been talking for a while. I'm just gonna go quickly here. Here's my computer. This is my system, and so you can see everything's controlled by here. I got temperature, relative humidity, humidity deficit, CO2. See, that's low. I want my CO2 at 400. Vents, and then I check out my graph. That pretty much dictates everything I want. And I guess that's it. I've been talking for a long time. I guess thank you guys for having me. And for anybody who's looking to get into this industry, I highly encourage you. I know there's not a lot of farming is not exactly seen as like a young man's game, so to speak, but it can be. I'm trying to, my major reason for getting into this industry is I love working with my family and having them around, and I'm going to be a father shortly in like 3 months, and I love the idea of having my son like come to work with me, and not too many professions allow you that. And I also I love that it forces me to be versatile, and it forces growth. So I mean, I could take that from here into the outside world, and I feel prepared for anything, because you have to be prepared for anything as a greenhouse operator. And but if you are coming, I suggest, and well, this wasn't planned, but I'm a big fan of Bruce Lee and Chuck Norris. And Bruce Lee's whole philosophy is kind of like taking everything of what you know and putting it to use in your own style, not being so like closed off to other ways of thinking. And if you want to be a greenhouse grower, that's kind of what it boils down to. You don't, there's many ways to do it, many ways that work, many different opinions, and you just want to find out what works best for you. So with that being said, this is DC Farms. I'd like to say we are a small family farm. That's my passion. I feel like that's a very fundamental core of what makes us human. Like, that's how humans started, with farms, you know? And as much as this industry is going to big business and corporate, I understand there's a need for that, but there's always a need for small family farmers, and I'm keeping up with the times. I plan on a small cannabis expansion in the front of my greenhouse here, and I like that I can show that I can adapt and grow, and that's what farming is all about. And I encourage you, young people to get into it. And if you have any questions, reach out.